Welcome to the Daughter Arise channel. My name is Yvonne and this channel is all about bringing you content surrounding child sexual abuse news. I'm also a survivor of child sexual abuse, and on this channel I share things to do with my experience, things I found hard, difficult, things that encouraged me, things that I found helpful, in hopes of encouraging and empowering other survivors. I also share news stories on this channel because I think it's important to raise awareness and educate the public on child sexual abuse, and I offer commentary to those stories. And I also share interviews with other survivors and people that work with survivors in hopes of also bringing awareness to this subject. So if this is the type of content that you're looking for, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you can be notified of any new uploads. And if you like the content, please hit the thumbs up button. So today's story is Female Child Sexual Abuse Remains Taboo While Victims Struggle. Now this story was published in January this year. I will leave a link to it in the description box below. Just need to give you a quick warning as well that you may find some of the information shared in this story triggering or upsetting, so just please be advised. So in this story it says that victims of female child sexual abusers face enormous stigma and shame, according to police and charities. Figures from BBC Radio's File on 4 show there were over 10,400 reports of this type of abuse between 2015 and 2019, equivalent to an average of 40 a week. Experts say there is a lack of understanding about the extent of such abuse. The UK government said it would not allow any space for sex offenders to operate, male or female. Between 2015 and 2019, the numbers of reported cases of female perpetrated child sexual abuse to police in England and Wales rose from 1,249 to 2,297 cases, an increase of 84%. Dr. Andrea Darling, a criminology researcher at Durham University, has looked at 40 cases of male and female teachers who sexually abused students, said that this was just the tip of the iceberg. She said that all child sexual abuse was underreported, but there was a particular lack of understanding of the extent of female perpetrated child sexual abuse. She said that this means that potentially abusive behaviour that may have been picked up if the perpetrator had been male is explained away. She said this has been consistent in her research. She added it was fundamentally important to understand a lot more of this kind of child sexual abuse. In the article, a lady called Nicola, who's now in her mid-20s, shares her experience of being sexually, physically and emotionally abused by her mother from a young age. She said the onset of her puberty was a trigger for the escalation of sexual abuse. My appearance was quite a weapon for her, which would often lead into more severe stuff. She would criticise my body and make me take my clothes off. In common with many child sexual abuse victims, Nicola describes her feelings of shame and self-loathing. She's never had a relationship or any consensual sexual contact. I think people will see me as dirty, which is what I feel about myself. I don't feel anyone will believe me. How does a mother or woman do this? I imagine that so strongly that it is a real inhibitor to talk about it, but women can rape. Nicola's abuse only ended when she left home at 16. She started going to counselling in 2018 after struggling to access the right treatment. So that was just a little snippet of the story. As I mentioned, I will leave a link to it in the description box below. But how widespread is the problem? In the article, it says that in 2018, 5,547 offenders were found guilty of child sexual abuse in England and Wales, according to the Ministry of Justice. There were 66 convictions of female abusers. There were a total of 73,260 reports of child sexual abuse offences in England and Wales in the 12 months from March 2018. 1 in 25 resulted in a charge or court summons. In the year 2018-2019, 3.8% of all child sexual abusers were female, based on police reports, according to the Office of National Statistics data. Up to 16% of those abused in residential care and 6% of those abused in other institutional contexts such as schools, sports and religious settings said female perpetrators were involved, according to the data for victim reports to the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse. So actually this is quite troubling, and it's so sad what Nicola had to go through at the hands of her own mother. I can only hope and pray that she gets the specialist help that she needs, that she's going to be able to resume some type of normal life. The damage that has been done to her has been considerable. So, one of the reasons I think it's difficult for people to get their head around the fact that females can be child sex abusers is because of the nature of a woman, especially mothers. If you think about it, mothers are meant to be these nurturers, they're meant to care for their children, they love their young. But the thing is, there are a lot of women out there that have children that are not like that. And one of the things I remember my therapist saying to me many, many years ago, going back 20 years when I was in therapy after having my breakdown after my sexual abuse, is that just because a woman has a baby doesn't mean that they can mother a baby. There's a huge difference. One of the things that has been becoming more noticeable is that paedophiles, or the paedophile rings, do use a lot of women to entice children into committing these acts. I've covered quite a few stories on this channel about Britain's first female paedophile being caught up in that, and there was another lady who was meant to be a churchgoer who was also using her position in a paedophile ring to sexually abuse children on camera. A lot of females are being used as key instigators in paedophile rings to sexually abuse children. There's been many cases over the years where female teachers have sexually abused young boys as well. And one of the things I always found quite interesting is when I used to scroll down to the comments in like the news section of the newspaper or the article, how people perceived this abuse towards young boys. A lot of people would have this kind of thing of saying, well, lucky him, he's been broken in by an older woman. This is just sickening because it is sexual abuse. Just because it's an older woman and a younger boy doesn't mean it's every boy's fantasy. Young boys are just as entitled to have a safe and happy childhood as young girls. And we're also seeing as well aunts and sisters and other females within the family structure besides teachers who are sexually abusing children. I also noticed in news stories as well that the sentencing for female perpetrators of sexual abuse, female paedophiles, is not as tough as male perpetrators of sexual abuse. I covered a news story recently on this channel about a female perpetrator of sexual abuse who was convicted and went to prison for sexually abusing two children. You know, she was allowed to escape being off the child sexual offences register, and I just thought that was absolutely appalling. I do think more needs to be done in terms of raising awareness about female child sexual abuse. Unfortunately, just because of the nature of child sexual abuse, it's very hard to get survivors to open up and talk about it publicly, regardless of whether they're male or female victims. But I do think this is something that continuously needs to be addressed, whether that is experts as Dr. Nicola Darling, one of the researchers into it, talking about it more publicly, and also just breaking down some facts and myths about female child sexual abuse as well. So I just wanted to quickly summarize that story for you. As I said, I will leave it in the description box below, and I will see you on the next video.